Sun shining, snow melting, vast blue sky, and the potential of spring. Yoo-hoo! Welcome in from the 10 directions, and a very good morning to everyone. Morning. It is my great pleasure to welcome our speaker this morning. He is a teacher for the Sangha called Wild Fox and Transforming Through Play Temple. That's a tease, isn't it? His name is Dosho Port, and I first got to know him when he came here to our conference on World Buddhism in North America, which was in 1987. Over the years, we have become associated and become friends through the American Zen Teachers Association. And as many of you know, he has just written a book, which he'll be talking about. So on a little book signing tour, he said, "Haju, could I help at the temple?" Basically, that's, I think, what you said. And so I said yes. And when he gave the topic, I was particularly interested, breaking open our heart. How to do it? How do we do it? So Dosho, again, welcome this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dosho.
How many of you are here for your first time this morning? Quite a few. Good morning, welcome. This is, as Haju said, my second time here, so we have something in common, those of you who are. I'm reminded of that scene in Gandhi, do you know the movie Gandhi? Where his wife, whose name I can't remember right now, is introducing Mirabelle, I think her name is, a British woman, English woman that comes to India to study with Gandhi. And she's giving her the orientation to the Gandhi way. And she says to her, "Let me share our foolishness with you, and you can share your foolishness with me." So we have all these different ways of living, and also, of course, in terms of Dharma practice that are mixing together in America now and in the world. And Haju mentioned this conference that was hosted here with great energy and skill in 1987, which I think was maybe the first time there was such a gathering. It was wonderful. I grew up in northern Minnesota in a small town. My town was a little bigger, but most of the towns in northern Minnesota at the time had a gas station and a bar. That was it. And a swamp. It was the gas station and the bar were at the high spot in the road, and swamp and popple trees all around. Do I need to do anything differently? And I started studying with Katagiri Roshi. Can you still hear me? I started studying with Katagiri Roshi in 1977, and he asked me to come to this conference. And I believe this was the second Zen center then, or Dharma center, that I'd ever been to, because in those days there was nothing really, very few anyway. And so it was wonderful to be here. It was a bit of a shock. There were so many different traditions that were represented. And as I said, maybe for the first time, you know, in history, so many different traditions. And one day, the most striking moment of the conference for me came when one afternoon we were meeting in a big tent that they had up back in the backyard over here, and one day Samusanim was introducing an afternoon session, I think, and because we were all unfamiliar with each other's ways and you know, separated for, you know, like a family that has been separated for 1,500, 2,000 years or something, we forget that the stories we tell about those other people aren't necessarily shared by those other people. And Samusanim mentioned that there would be a presentation by, I think he said something like, by a Hinayana monk. And Hinayana means a small vehicle, individual vehicle, and that's what the old school of Buddhism is called by the upstart Mahayana school, which is only about 1,500 years old. But of course, the so-called Hinayanists don't think of themselves as like, oh yeah, we're in the small vehicle, and you all in the Mahayana are the big vehicle. So one of the groups, the Sri Lankan monks, and the Theravada monks are characterized by being very tamed and thoroughly calm, but they got mad. Kind of like a Sri Lankan temperament. There was one older monk who was very feisty. I really liked him. And he jumped up and he objected somehow to what was said. He said, "I will not sit here and have my tradition disparaged in this way." And then he started stomping out of the conference. He was like sitting almost up front, and there was, you know, lawn or folding chairs and every packed place, and he motioned for his young monks to follow him. And you know, they did. And everyone was like, huh? Like, and you know, like, oh, first gathering of this kind, and someone's going to walk out. But no one could do anything except, as they marched down the aisle, I think Vietnamese layperson just immediately jumped up and stood in their path and bowed down very low and said, "Please, please, venerable monks, don't leave the assembly, don't leave the assembly, don't leave the assembly." And they said, "Well, okay." And they went back and sat down. And of course, Samusanim was very apologetic, and after that, it became known as the H word, you know. Don't use the H word. So that was very moving for me, and to see Buddhism in action, and also the normal humanness of Buddhists, both our normal humanness and how a practice can jump up and block the aisle. So I want to talk today a little bit, as Haju mentioned, about opening the heart, how to do it. And in a way, of course, it's a very simple matter. And in Buddhism, we have something called the Four Noble Truths that point really to how to open the heart. And so I'd like to talk a little bit today about those Four Noble Truths, and tell some more stories too, because we have a fire in the back. And then in a little bit, I'll open it up for you. This is, it seems to me, a very, except for me being up here, it seems like a very normal human gathering with a fire and telling stories. So